In high stress environments like an ER, emotional intelligence isn't optional. Today's conversation is about what happens when we bring those same human skills into leadership and community. Welcome to the Doing What You Know podcast. I'm Ray Thigpen. This show is about closing the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Through real conversations, lived experience, and practical insight, we focus on mindset, growth, and becoming who you were created to be. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 6 of the Doing What You Know podcast. Tonight, I've got a special guest from down under, someone I just recently met, as a matter of fact, in the Skool communities. Busy guy, has a family life. Actually had to go to the library today because his internet service was down in the heat waves. Anyway, I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself, what his background is, and we'll bring him on. Daniel Halls, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Ray. Thanks for bringing me on, mate. Appreciate it.
Good to have you. Yeah. So tell us what's going on. How's things been, and how did you kind of get into the arena?
Yeah, well, it's a much cooler day in Australia today. It's about mid-20s, so a bit cooler than the 43 degrees Celsius we had on my Tuesday. So my background is I'm a nurse by trade. I've been a nurse for 15 years now. Majority of that time's been in an emergency department, and half of that, so about nearly 9 years now, I've worked in a associate manager role. So I'm kind of holding the fort and doing the daily, flow of patients, and I have my own group of staff that I mentor and look after and do their yearly appraisals for. So the way my school community and kind of my side hustles kind of progressed is that I found that a lot of my staff that are supposed to be that are senior nurses themselves are all very good with the clinical side of work. They've gone to school for many, many years to refine their craft. But then when it comes to the people skills of giving feedback and having those challenging conversations in very highly emotional situations, as you could imagine being in an emergency department, they felt that there was a lot of room for improvement. So during COVID times, when everything was escalated that little bit more, I ended up, during our lockdowns in Australia, I ended up making some presentations and slides and gathering a whole heap of information to kind of help my colleagues kind of improve in those situations. So I went over emotional intelligence, kind of how to improve that in challenging situations, conflict or challenging conversations, feedback, all of that and everything in between, teamwork, leadership, everyday leadership, and kind of just simple things, group activities, and that kind of has now flooded on to me doing my school community, which is Make Human Skills Matter, which is essentially doing the same things but helping people globally.
Right.
So yeah, I find it is a big niche, but I think if you talk to anybody, everyone's like, I could probably improve in this aspect of my communication, or I could be a little bit more emotionally intelligent. So it's just helping many people on the one page. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so I've never really fully grasped the emotional intelligence aspect. I'm a retired tech support engineer. I provided support for high-end storage, and as you might imagine, that sometimes escalated into some pretty high stress. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I retired, because I just didn't have the mindset at the time to be able to handle that stress. I took things too personally, and I couldn't set it aside, which is what emotional intelligence is all about, right?
Exactly right. So it's really understanding, for one thing that I try to explain for people when it comes to kind of understanding your emotional intelligence a little better is just think of how you're feeling as a thermometer. Green, everything's peachy, it's right at the bottom, low temperature, cool, calm, collected. You can think, plan ahead, and everything's going well. And then as you start to creep up to more of a red, yellow is you're starting to feel a little tense, or you can feel a little bit of a throb, or, you can feel your breath getting a bit shorter, or you're just feeling something's happening and you probably need to address it. But a lot of people don't know how to address it, and that's where your emotional awareness comes in. And then what happens quickly is you go to orange and red, where you essentially are flipping the lid, and that's when everything becomes really emotional. So the front of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, it doesn't work when you're highly emotional. It essentially gets hijacked by your middle brain, your amygdala. So don't want to get too technical, but that's where all your emotions and the fight or flight responses all kick in.
Right.
So being able to understand that maybe you are creeping to that area, and it's something that I'm still working on my daily life. I have kids and a wife and a dog, and all these things can get heightened very quickly. So it's kind of just recognize, okay, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. What do I need to do? So one thing that I always tell everybody, Jefferson Fisher is a podcaster and very well known over in America. I think he's a Texan as well. He's a lawyer by trade, and he says to his clients, if they're starting to feel overwhelmed, their first response has to be a breath.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and by taking a breath, it gives you time just to let everything settle down. The messages that go in your brain from your emotional section to the front part of your brain takes about 10 seconds. So if you can take a nice big breath and pause for 10 seconds, you're going to give yourself enough time to make a better response, essentially, and leading in with curiosity.
That word response is key, because that's something that, although I haven't really focused from an emotional intelligence aspect, that is something I've worked on a lot, is learning to respond rather than to react. And I guess so subconsciously, because I'm doing that, I do take that second to breathe rather than to react to something and figure out how to respond. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I also and the thing with these things, it's they're like any other skill that you learn. So if you are working in a trade industry and you're learning how to use a power tool, you need to understand it a little bit more before you can start using it. The thing with emotional intelligence and conflict and all these things is no one's given you a manual when you go to school on how to manage it. It's kind of, we all just figure it out. But with some guidelines, it makes it easier. Like having a bit of a manual of knowing what works for you, and being aware of, okay, that I have a conversation with Ray, I don't think it's going to go well. I'm going to feel a little bit heightened. I probably need to have a think of how that conversation is going to go first. I had a nurse come up to me one day, and I think anyone that's watched this has probably had the same situation where you're going to go give someone feedback, and you think you're going to say A, they're going to respond with B, they're going to say, thank you so much, appreciate it, and you're going to high five and walk away. When does that ever happen?
Right? Almost never.
Almost never. So having a bit of a plan A, plan B on what to say when you're giving feedback to someone. Some people will go, really appreciate it, thank you so much. Some other questions, then you move aside. But sometimes when you give someone feedback, their emotional response is to take it personally. And we don't intend to do that, but our tone and our body language and doing all that, we're feeling tense giving that feedback.
Right.
So you need to know that and be able to, okay, lean in with curiosity, ask a question rather than, you did this, can you help me understand this outcome?
Right.
So you're going to get the same answer, but it's now, I want to understand rather than pointing the blame game.
And getting them to go ahead and answer that, it makes it feel like it's their idea rather than your suggestion, so they take ownership of it that way.
Exactly right. So then that whole dynamic changes, because then it's, we are working through it together rather than I'm blamed, or not blamed, but this happened because of your action. Well, it's like, well, I don't want this to happen again. How are we going to work together to make it negligible for next time?
Exactly. Yeah, and that whole mindset thing is so difficult for most people to grasp, because I like talking about the paradigms and the way we've been programmed since birth, and how we've been raised by. We take on the same beliefs and truths that our parents did and that their parents did, and they may or may not even be who we really are, but that's just what
Yeah.
we were raised with. And until we get to the point where we say, wait, I don't really believe that, and give ourselves permission to go in a different direction, then it's until you know that that is a possibility, you feel stuck. And then you get in those situations where someone's offering advice, um, you feel more like you're being corrected or criticized, and then you come off being offended and hurt, when really the proper prodding and questioning, you can just change that whole situation around and make them actually feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's really been a bit of a shift in my workplace since I've been working with my senior nurses. Um, Forever working on improving, and I have monthly meetings with them saying, what worked, what didn't work. Tell me about a time when you gave feedback and it didn't work out. Let's dive in and break it down on what happened. It's like if you do use a power tool, if you get live feedback, if it doesn't work,
Right.
and you normally, as an apprentice, you've got your boss saying, no, that's not how you use a piece of equipment, or that is how you use it. When it comes to these sort of things, you don't have someone standing on the side going, oh, that was a good question to ask. You're kind of on your own. You're kind of thrown in the deep end, and then it's not until you reflect after you kind of learn what worked and what didn't. But the tricky thing is, because it's highly emotional situations, you don't really remember what you've said either.
Right. Right.
So it's a really tricky thing to kind of show people that, you just need to take that slow breath to kind of keep yourself present, so you can be able to reflect on it later, but you're also being calm in the situation by slowing down.
Right. You said you were in the emergency department, right?
I'm in
Yeah.
an emergency.
So emergencies, I mean, that word gets, strikes a little fear into people's heart. And then you get in those emergency with situations, and you have to deal not only with the patients, but the patients' families. And
Yep.
yeah, that's hard. The families are probably harder to deal with than a lot of the patients. And then you got to, that is all people's skill when you're talking about dealing with their families.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think 95% of our job is engaging with people. The 5% is paperwork.
Yeah. Right. And the paperwork's taught, right?
Yeah, it's yeah, I think it's been a long journey doing this within the emergency department, because everyone works shift work, night shift. You know, everyone has their own problems at home, which is the other thing that I like to remind people, is that you don't know what's happening in your colleague's life, and you don't know what's happening in the patient's life. I know for a fact that they don't want to be in the emergency department, so it's probably already the worst day of their life. So by downplaying, oh, it's just a little bit of this or it's just a little bit of that, doesn't matter to the patient, because it's like, well, I thought I was dying 4 hours ago.
Right.
So I don't really care about you downplaying what I have to say. So I'm really aware of, with my staff, it's like, that level of empathy needs to go up a little. And it is hard to keep it on 100% all the time in an emergency department, because you do get worn out. But it's just the right questions and the right phrases that you need to just help de-stimulate that situation. And then the empathy just comes naturally, because you're just asking questions and, So yeah, it's a really rewarding sort of side piece that I've got at the moment. And now I'm starting to reach out to my human skills community on Skool. We'll dive into that a little bit. So I've currently got about 50, 55, 56 members now, including your good self, who's jumped on to say hi, which is great. But everybody that I've got on there so far all have a background of either having trouble themselves and have been reaching out for the support, or I've got teachers, I've got counselors, I've got therapists. I think there's a couple of doctors on there. Like, there's some very intellectual bodies in that community that have all added a little bit of value to helping someone, which has been great to see.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a couple of days ago, I put a post out on Tuesday. I just put a post out. I can't remember what exactly it was about. I think it was about emotions, like how you're feeling in a certain situation. And one young man that's on there who signed up had written a really long piece. He apologized about the long piece, but he wrote a long piece about it. And then a few people all jumped on to give him some support and encouragement. And, yeah, what you're feeling is real, but what you're doing is good. And you need to take little steps. And I think a few people messaged him to the side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to see that from the founder perspective, my job's done with
Right.
because people are just helping. And that's all I've ever.
That's what I love about these school communities, because every community has its own niche. And then because the people are already in there that have the same kind of mindset and the same ideas, whatever. I mean, some of the communities are like ukuleles and knitting or whatever, but everybody in that community has some knowledge about that particular topic. And that's what's so great when you can come in with your advice, and then somebody else can chime in and say, yeah, and I saw it this way, or somebody else saw it the other way. Or you may not even be in there at that time, and somebody could post, and one of the other community members pops in, and they're all working under the same guidelines.
Yeah, it's great.
It is.
It's really pleasing to see, especially when you wake up in the morning and you see all these notifications, and then you're like, most of them are on your community. Like, oh, it's been a busy night. We've
Right.
got to play catch up, which is great. Sometimes I can't respond to every single one, so I end up just doing I've made a habit now of just making one post and tagging everyone that made a contribution and saying thank you and give a little bit of a spiel, because writing the individual ones, just, if you're getting 50, 60 notifications, it's just not enough time in the world to respond to everyone. So I found that quite useful for myself. When you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, you go, okay, this topic's had heaps of people. Everyone that's involved, thank you so much for jumping on. I'm going to chime in my little piece, and I agree with that person, and I agree with that person, and it's been really good. And then they add on to it as well.
Right. Yeah, that's that one of the steps of overcoming overwhelm that I've taught is taking small steps. Break that larger project down into something smaller, which is exactly what you're doing. And you imagine when your community has hundreds of members in there doing that, and you've got all those notifications, and that's going to be the point where you might have to decide to turn some notifications off. Kind of when it gets when the community has a life of its own, and you don't have to engage like you may feel like you need to now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the school is talking about giving you some opportunities to filter the comments and filter your notifications a little bit more, which will be helpful. Likes, I see the likes and I appreciate the likes, but I kind of go, okay, someone's liked it. I only really respond to the comments.
Yeah, I have notifications turned off for likes now. I don't need to see the notifications on that, because odds are there's going to be somebody that commented in that same thread that I'm going to get a notification on. So I'm going to see the likes anyway.
Exactly right. Right.
Yeah, I love the fact that Skool is always working on things to make improvements like that for filtering notifications, Now they're coming out with filtering spam, doing some AI stuff. You're noticing if somebody's all AI posts and stuff like that. So I love the way they're working in the background. They've been around for several years. I'm surprised I just recently heard about Skool myself, because I think they've been around like 3 or 4 years. But yeah, I love Skool. It's the social aspect of it is so much better than Facebook. I mean, the elephant in the room, right, is Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. It's the big social media guru or giant or whatever. But it's just a mishmash of everybody. Whether you've got things in common with others or not. And if you've been around marketing like I have for 40 years, I get friend requests all the time, and they're not really because they care about what I'm talking about. It's more because they want to pitch me their opportunity, which may have absolutely nothing to do with what my interests are. But you don't see that in Skool, because in Skool, the community is already about your niche.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I love the fact that I could write a post on my community and get multiple people jumping on, and I could do exactly the same post on Facebook, and I would get nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's just the algorithms and all that. It just makes it so much harder to get any responses. And I think that's a good thing with Skool, is that you generally get a response pretty quick from your community because they care. Like, people want to buy into it, which is a reward in itself.
So in your community, Make Human Skills Matter, do you have courses already available that you're building? Or are you building more? Or talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so at the moment I've built a couple of, I've kind of palmed them off from my workshops that I've done in my workplace, and I've just broken them down into dot points. One of the ones that I've did recently that a few people are giving feedback on is the Uncommon Connections course. So I essentially have just made some different scenarios. So coming home from work, talking to your partner, or meeting a new colleague, you're at a party and you don't really know what to say. So I've just made a couple of scenarios with like 4 or 5 questions that are very easy to use, that kind of open up the conversation a little bit more, kind of get the emotion out of the other person. So one of the examples is you're getting home from work, you're kind of in autopilot. Hi, honey, how you going? Yeah, good. How was work? It was fine. So to break it up, I've got like, well, what was one thing that made you laugh today? Because then you could see, I think even if I asked you that now, you'd stop and you'd be like, oh, yeah, this happened. And then that would roll on the conversation more, and you can dive into a little bit. You kind of learn something about it, one of your partner's colleagues at work, and it's just a simple thing, but like, no one sits down and looks up, or doom scrolling looks up, or how do I have a better conversation with someone?
Right.
So I've just made them dot points, and same with like conflict and leadership. I've just given simple tips and tricks and broken them up into little digestible things. So you do one and then you're done for the day. Just tick it off. And I've just got uncommon connections. I've got something on emotional intelligence. I've got something on feedback, something on conflict management, and a couple others there that I'm continuously building on. And I asked for feedback from my community members. Did it work? Did it stick? Is there something that I can do to make it better for you? Because that's the goal.
Right.
The classroom is for the community.
Yeah, I love the way you're providing that value. That's something, especially after couples have been married for years and years, and they do that I come home from work, hey, honey, how you doing? And it's that same monotonous routine day in and day out. And by introducing one simple little question, I can definitely see how that would improve a relationship, because now all of a sudden we're engaging in a conversation and not just going about whatever routines we're used to doing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I'm going to be doing is in my side hustle, I'm doing presentations to workplaces about certain topics. So I've got one coming up on conflict resolution and adaptation to change in the workplace. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm practicing them for my customers there, I'm going to do a live on my community. I'll announce it like a day or two prior, saying, hey, I'm going to just do this run on my computer. Feel free to come watch it. And I'll record it and probably keep it in the classroom for archive for later. The benefit is 2 ways. There's probably some information that's going to be useful for people there. But for me, some people might give me feedback going, oh, that was really good, or could you elaborate on that topic a little bit more? So then I can get better value for my customers in real life as well. So, and that's just a continual, improvement for myself. It's nice to get that feedback. I wouldn't get that on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube.
No.
Because some of them probably would never keep the...
Yeah, you don't even have the opportunity to present courseware on any of those other social media platforms. So This is just a totally different animal. It's almost hard to call it a social media platform because of all the things that are built in, like the courses. It's just different. Oh, I lost you.
Two.
There you go. I lost your audio for a second.
No, all good. I'm back.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, no, it's really fun to see them, and then people like in my community, I've got a little classroom Q&A there that I think people are still trying to get their head around. I need to update my welcome video to emphasize that again. But people are, hey, I've done this. I did this challenge today. This is what I found, and then some people have responded and they've got feedback from that, which is really good. So yeah, it's
awesome.
kind of just growing on its own organically, really.
It is. It is. Yeah. So your community is free currently?
Currently, it is free. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming you've got free and paid courses?
At the moment, I've only got the free courses that I've got on there. I think once I start doing the videos with the presentations, they're probably going to be a bit more of a paid thing, but I don't think they're not going to be arm and a leg sort of thing. Like the courses that I do for the companies, it's in real life here in Australia, they're, $600 to $800 to do the presentation with follow up and one-to-one with the team stuff. Whereas on Skool, I'm probably going to charge maybe $10, $20 for them to see it.
Right. Yeah.
Which they could use in their own workplace.
Sure.
So I think it's a pretty good discount for them.
Oh, absolutely. And then now you could absolutely charge more for a one-on-one access type thing if that's something that you chose to do. But
I suppose the biggest sorry, right?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I suppose the biggest challenge for an Australian at the moment with Skool is that large majority of the people that are on Skool are on the other side of the planet. So it's kind of working out that timing. Like the podcast we're doing now, it's 10:30 in the morning in Australia,
right?
On Thursday,
and it's 6:30 on Wednesday evening where I am. So
it's a bit of that'll be the challenge for me, I suppose. Is just kind of finding how that would work for the customer without me getting up at 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly, and that's. And that's a challenge for me too, because I'm surprised at how much. Well, I'm kind of surprised at how much of my community's in Australia, but then again, I'm not, because most of my community Scott Gerard sent this way. So,
Yeah.
So that is a challenge. I mean, even for this podcast, we had to work. Both of us had to kind of juggle our schedules to do it, because I usually on my calendar, I'm like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So we had to go past that to set something up, which, on a one-on-one basis, that's okay. That's doable, but it's hard to do that every day. So.
Yeah, no. And I very much appreciate you being adjustable to that. A couple of hours earlier, I'm doing the morning school run. So I don't think that video would be very engaging when my kids are running past.
That would be an interesting podcast, wouldn't it? So, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out this morning to actually go out of your way to the library so that you could be on with us. The value that you're providing is awesome. Like say, the emotional intelligence is something I've heard a lot about over the years. In my networking businesses, I've had mentors talk about it, and I had no idea what they were talking about. So it's, they just threw the words out, emotional intelligence, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So, but you're explaining it really, really well. And I definitely see the value. I'm sure the audience is going to see the value in it. And I want to direct them over to your Skool community and make human skills matter. Is there a link? What's the best way to get to your community?
What I'll do is I haven't sent it to you, Ray, but I'll send you through a link that we can put in the comments. But if you go on Skool, if you're already on Skool, just look up "Make Human Skills Matter." I'll pop up off the top there. yeah, I'll probably put a couple of my other contacts on in the comments after we've posted this as well. Yes, having no internet at home has made it a little bit tricky to send you through the info, right?
Oh, that's fine. No, I'm just a lot of my audience is audio only. So because we're on iTunes and iHeart, Amazon Music, so they're not going to be able to see the comments anyway that we can on Spotify and YouTube. So so that's good. Just go to Skool if you're already a member and look up your community in the discovery or search for Make Human Skills Matter, and it'll come up. And for for our visual audience, we'll have it in the description. So awesome. All right, Daniel, well, I think we should just wrap it up. This has been a great conversation. Thanks again for your time. I look forward to maybe doing this again in the future and seeing you in the Skool communities, watching that grow, and personally learning more from you myself.
Love it, Ray. Thank you so much for having me on. We definitely should have another catch up at some point, and might be going a little bit more detail about emotional intelligence for the audience.
That sounds good. All right. Thanks, Daniel. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon.
No worries, Ray. Thank you so much.
All right. Growth happens when knowledge turns into action. If you're ready to keep that work going, join us inside the Doing What You Know community at doingwhatyouknow.com/team. Thanks for spending this time with me. Until next time, keep doing what you know.